recording. So good morning again, once again to everyone. So welcome to another class. So the last class, it would have been a little noisy. It would have been a little breakup now and then, little disturbances. So in a brief review of what we looked at for the last class, we were talking about the difference between function and formula. And I will said one of the difference is that when it comes to the operators, in the formula, you would put the operator, but in a function, for example, the average function, you do not see any operator. So that's one difference. Another difference is that the function, the calculations is built into the function, built into the software, whereas a formula, you have to create that mathematical equation. You have to create that calculation, among other things I said. And then we went on to look at some examples of functions. I said there are three things you need to remember about a function. Three things you need to remember. One, you need to remember what is the function's name. Two, you basically need to remember what it is used for. And three, you need to remember the syntax. The syntax is the structure of how to make the function. So, like how we would make a formula, and we would say A1 equal A1 plus A2, and we can basically say any operator and any cell in any value. We don't have to learn how to create a formula. We can create it based on anything we want. But a function has a pattern. It has a specific layout, and that is called the syntax. So for each function, you're going to see a syntax. And it's important for you to remember the syntax in order to correctly create the function. So those are the three things you should remember for what is a function. Yeah. Well, about the function we're talking about. So what is the function name? What it is used for, or what it is doing? What is its purpose? And lastly, what is its syntax? Those are the three things you should remember about the function. And it's not limited to those three. Any other additional information, I just summarize it into those 3 points. Good. So we already looked at the average function. We already looked at count A, count if, and we wrapped up last week at date. Remember, count only counts numbers. Count A counts any type of data. Count if is going to count numbers, but based on that criteria. And they do not count blank cells. If a cell is blank, if it does not have any data, it will not be counted. So count is only counting if data is in a cell, not how much data is in a cell, if data is in a cell. And then we looked at date. Remember, date requires you to type the values into 3 cells, and then you use those 3 cells to create your date function. And we also looked at the today function, which gives you today's date. So we're going to move on now to the if function. And to get us started, let's see, I think we're at Rizwan. Can you read if function for us?
Yes.
Okay, sir. The syntax is if, open bracket, logical test, value if true, value if false. This function allows you to make a choice depending on whether a condition is met or not, and returns one of the two values. Suppose you have decided that if you spend an average more than $10 on lunch, then you should make your own lunch the next week. If the if statement is useful to determine whether you should continue to buy lunch or make your own lunch.
Great. So the if function, if you notice the syntax, it has 3 arguments. Remember, what is inside of the brackets is called arguments. So the if function has 3 arguments, and the first argument is that logical test. Anybody wants to make a guess what this relates to? Because we have some similar terms based on what we looked at last week. Anyone put the pieces together? In the count if function, any similarities? You guys remember what we said about criteria? What is a criteria?
So conditions to be followed or requirements.
Right. Conditions to be followed, requirements, a question. Those are criteria. That is basically what a criteria is. And this logical test, we can consider it a criteria also. It's something that we must follow. So it's testing something. In this case here, it's going to be testing a value. So if we scroll over here, at the bottom, we have an example here of the if function in action. So firstly, going back to the syntax, the arguments, the first argument is to create a test. And the test is going to be similar to your criteria. What were some of the questions I said your criteria can be based on? Remember those signs? What were some of them?
Or more than less than.
More than, less than. Amina, we're barely hearing you. Not equal to. Good.
More than equal.
Right. So you guys have the idea. Less than, more than equal to, less than equal to, not equal to, equal to. All of those are used for the test also. So they're going to test if a value is less than something, if it is more than, if it is not equal to, whatever the case may be. That is going to be the test. Now, if the test is true, whatever is in this second part of the syntax is going to be carried out. And this part here is going to be ignored. So it's like, you could imagine it, like if it's a road, say this is you here, and you have 2 choices. You could either go this way or you could go this way. So at the top here is going to be true, and the bottom here is going to be false. So obviously if you're on one road, you cannot be on the other road. So it's the same for the syntax. If the value is true, if the test is true, then one part of the syntax is going to be carried out and the other part is going to be ignored. So if the test is true, the true part of the syntax will be carried out, and if the test is false, the false value of the part will be carried out and the true will be ignored. That's basically how it works. So in this example here, they are checking to see, let me zoom out a little. Okay, good. So in this table here, it has amount spent on lunch. We have the days on the left, the amount on the right. So on Monday, somebody spent $15, Tuesday $25, Wednesday $10, Thursday $13, Friday $14, and they use the average function to calculate what is the average they would have spent here. Now, they're using an if function to test to see whether they should make their own lunch or not. They want to know, am I spending too much money on lunch? So they are running a test based on the average B8. So they're using the average here. So they're asking, is B8 greater than 10? Is cell B8 greater than 10? And that's this cell here. If cell B8 is greater than 10, if it is true, the true part of the syntax will be carried out. If it is not true, if it is false, then you would have seen a no. So if we look at the results, 15 is in fact greater than 10. So the word yes, if you notice, it is inside of the cell here. So yes, we must make our own lunch. So if you notice, these words, they're in double quotation marks. So if you're going to put words to appear, then you would need to put them in double quotation marks. So you have another situation where we have to use double quotation marks. So in a nutshell, that's basically how it works. You run a test. If the test is true, that part of the syntax will be carried out. If the test is false, the false part of the syntax will be carried out. Are you guys following so far?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's look at our example now. So we could say, we just put a random number, 70. We can create our own if function now. So I'm going to type if function, and here I'm going to type equal if. So remember, the bottom here always shows you the syntax if you ever forget. So the test is first. So we want to test if this cell is it let's see, greater than 50. Is it greater than 50? Yes. Or we can put no. So it's a simple test. We're testing to see if it is greater than 70. If it is, we're going to see yes. If it is not, we are going to see no. So yes, 70 is greater than 50. Remember, this is a test here. So if I change the value, 60, still the same. 55, still the same. 50, no. Why is it a no?
Because it's equal to another.
Because it's equal and it's not greater. Good. So 50 is not greater than 50, so you will get the false part of the test. So anything below 50 now will give you that no. So if we actually swap the words now, no and yes, it will basically not make sense, because we're going to be confusing ourselves if this is greater than this. But I'm just showing you, if it is true, whatever we have in that true syntax, whatever we have in that false syntax will be carried out. So this all comes back to, you have to plan to create this function here. You have to think of first, what is the test, and which value or what answer would be logically true. So in this case here, a yes would be more logical for the true part, because yes, D2 is greater than 50, because then it would be true. And the last part, no, it is not greater. So basically any word you type here, if I put 60, that is what will appear. So whatever you have in that true and that false, it will appear if the test is true or false, depending on that. Now what if we don't put quotation marks? We'll get an error because it basically doesn't know how to deal with this here. So basically any text, it's mostly text. If we're going to type a word or some form of phrase, I think we can put space. Let me try it. This is text with space. Yes, we can put space, because in IT, spaces usually cause issues. So having that double quotation mark indicates that it is all one. So that's why for most of the functions, if we're ever going to use text, we would use the double quotation marks. Let's see. Now we could also put numbers if we want. Let's see. If it is true, put the number 6. If it is false, put the number 8. So it is true, so we got the number 6. And if it is false, we'll get the number 8. So notice for the numbers, we didn't need to put them in the quotation marks. But what if we do put them in quotation marks? Notice it's on the left hand side. Anybody want to tell me why it's on the left hand side?
Right?
What is a text?
Because it now considers it as text. Very good. So the double quotation mark in this case here is treating it as text. Good. So not only is it also, can you put not only can you put numbers, also you can even put an equation. You can say let me see if this is gonna work. I haven't used it in a while. 4 times 4 4 times 10. And we have 50, 60. Right. So notice this equation here was carried out. 4 times 10 is 40. So the test, once again, is D2 greater than 50. Whatever is inside of the true part will be carried out. In this case, we have a formula. We have an equation. We don't need to put the equal sign because we already have an equal sign here. And remember, this is a function. So it already knows to treat it as a formula. So this formula here, or this equation, is going to be carried out. And if we have another equation over here, if I type in 40, then that will be calculated. Are you guys following?
Yes, sir.
Questions? Any comments?
No, sir.
Alright. So remember, once again, The important part to remember is the syntax. What are the three arguments that you have to put? Remember, the test can be any one of those questions. Is it less than? Is it more than? Okay, so we didn't try that. So we can say, is it more than and equal to 50? Because remember, when we were typing 50, we were getting the other value. So yes, it is more than and equal to 50. So we have that true value here, 40. Is it not equal to 50? So false, because it is equal to 50. I have 50 at the top here. We're getting the false value of 80. So whatever the test is, remember, whatever you have inside of the true, whatever is in the false will be carried out based on if the test is true or false. Good. So let's move on to our other function. Now that is a very important function to remember, and you're going to be using it more than the other functions. So if there's any one of you that still doesn't understand it, please let me know. Alright, seems as though you do. So let's look at the max function now. Now, if you notice, the max syntax is as simple as the average, is as simple as the count. The max function produces the largest or maximum value in the range. So it's basically max and the range of cells. So it basically looks at that range of cell and gives you back the largest value. So if I start off with 9 there, and I bring that down and I autofill. So 14 here obviously is going to be the highest value. So max equal max, open bracket, our range, and we have 14 there. So if I change 9 to 700, then 700 is going to be our maximum value. If I change 12 to 4500, that's going to be our maximum value there. So max basically looks at the range of numbers and gives you your maximum value. Min is basically the opposite. It's going to look at that range and give you your smallest value. So equal, so this is supposed to be min, equal min, highlight our range. So our minimum value here is 10. So if I change the 700 to 0, 0 is going to be our smallest value. Let me see if it detects point values. No, it doesn't detect point values. Or it's still treating, yeah, it's treating the 0 and the 0.12 as similar, because it's basically not looking beyond the point. Good. So we have there our max and min function. They're simple functions. Alright, so let me see. Did I give... Oh, so let me give an example of this if function here. That was what I was looking for. So this if function, I would use this if function, for example, when I am doing grades. So let me find your grades. Let me find your mark book from third form. So this is your mark book from third form. So in this column here, this is coursework 1, coursework 2, 3, another coursework, and then I total up that coursework. So if you notice let me zoom in a bit more. For this pass here, I wasn't typing in pass. I was actually running a if function. Because spreadsheet is not about only typing in data. It's about looking at how to make data entry easier. So in this case here, instead of me looking at each value and determining that this person passed, this person failed, and typing the word, no, that would be ineffective. The more effective method would be to run a test on the person's grade, comparing it to the pass mark, and then put if the person passed or if the person failed. So this is my test here. So I basically needed two values. So here, this column here, coursework total, this is the total the student would have gotten overall. So this person got 62, this one got 63, 53, 64, 55, and so on. This is their total for the term. Now, what I also needed was a pass mark grade, something to compare it to. Because remember, I'm making a test. So what I did was that I divided the total in half. So I divided, notice here I named my range. So this is my grand total here, 72. The overall total of grades was 72. And if you notice at the top left, I named it C.WT3, basically coursework total 3. And I used it in this grade here, this grade column, divided by 2 to get half, because I considered half as pass basically. So I divided that by 2 and I got half of 72. So that I considered as my pass mark. So if you look at the name box once again, I named this cell P.M3, basically pass mark. So in my if function now, remember this is the student's grade, this 62 here. This 62, H5. So what I basically did, I tested if H5 is greater than that pass mark of 36. If it is true, then they're going to get the phrase of the word of pass. And if it is false, then they're going to get the word of fail. So I don't think, so for example, this case here, whoever got 32, they got fail because they did not pass or did not go over this 36 pass mark here. So this is just a simple example of a if function in use. Are you guys following?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's see. So if you notice with my examples here of formulas, I have let's see, the name of a cell with also the new name that I created with. That's also possible to do your calculations to create formulas with. Because remember, it's easier to remember the name of the range than to actually remember the name of the cell. And we're actually going to look at why it is useful to name the range also, to name the cell. There's another reason as to why it is useful. Alright, so that's the example there of the if function. Now, we're going to look at PMT. Alright, so let's have a reader. Robert, can you read that for us?
The syntax is equal PMT, interest rate, number of payments, loan amount. The PMT function is a financial function that is used to calculate the payment for a loan based on a specific number of payments and constant interest rate. If the repayments are made on monthly basis, then the yearly interest rate and the number of payments need to be converted to frequency of payment. To do so, the interest rate must be divided by 12, while the number of payments should be multiplied by 12 if they are quoted in years. Figure 7.25 illustrates a $5,000 loan with a yearly interest rate of 7.6% that must be repaid in 2 years. This means that the monthly interest rate is B2 divided by 12, and the number of repayments is calculated at 2 years times 12 months equals 24 payments, or B3 times 12. The loan function is therefore equal to PMT, open brackets, B2 divided by 12, comma, B3 multiplied by 12, comma, B1, close bracket, returning returning a payment of $225.34 per month over 2 years. You may note that the result is a negative value, representing an outgoing payment for the person who is repaying the loan.
Great. So the PMT is basically a function that you would use if a person would have taken a loan. So you know when you go to the bank and you take a loan, you're going to take a loan maybe of a 4 million, 5 million, 10 million, 30 million, whatever the case may be. So if we look at the syntax at number 3, we have there the loan amount. So that's basically how much you're going to be taking out, that loan amount. Now, the bank would tell you how long do you have to pay off this loan. So that is going to be your number of payments, because they're going to tell you that you have 5 years to pay off this loan, and they're basically going to tell you that every month or every year you should pay this amount, and within the 5-year period you are going to cover that loan amount that you would have taken. And then they would give you an interest rate as to how much additionally you have to pay back. You guys know that's how the bank works, right? Right? I guess not.
I had an idea, but now it's very clear. Thank you.
Right. So that's basically how the bank works. They give you a certain amount of money. They tell you how long. So how long is going to basically be the number of payments. And they give you an interest rate. So that's why persons go between different banks, because different banks have different interest rates, and it depends on how much money you would take also. That would determine the interest rate. So the purpose of the PMT is to determine how much money you have to pay back for that period of time. So let's see, let's look at an example, and then we're going to come back to the paragraph. So it would be useful for us to write down the information. So I think they already gave an example, so let's use that example. So they have loan amount 5 million, loan amount 536 million. Convert that to currency. I hope you guys are paying attention to what I'm additionally doing. Interest rate. So that's going to be 7.65% per year. And then we have years to repay, basically how long. And they have 2 years. So if you notice, this column here, it's only values. This column here is only values. That's why we put in the text outside to the left and to the right. Because remember, we need to calculate the values. So now we have our payments. Now, PMT has two ways of calculating. We can do a calculation based on the yearly repayment, or we can do a calculation based on the monthly repayment. Now, by default, so this is going to be, I'm going to give some space. So this is going to be the yearly payments we're going to look at first. Now, by default, when you use PMT, it's going to give you the yearly repayments. So, if you look at the syntax, it might be a bit confusing because there's some additional information here, but just focus on the one that we have in the textbook and use those three parts. We have interest rate, number of payments, and loan amount. So if you look at it, it says rate, so that's going to be interest rate. Number of payments is going to be NPR, and PV is going to be, I'm assuming, the loan amount there. So our rate is going to be cell B2, that is 7.62%. Rate is interest rate, and the next part is the amount of years that we have, the number of payments. So we have 2 years, so that's going to be cell B3, and then the loan amount, so that's going to be B1. So we complete that. So every year we have to pay 2.79 million. If we remove this interest rate and put 0, you can notice we have 2.5, because half of 5 million is 2.5 million. But notice we're going to get additional money here because of that interest rate. So we can see that we're basically paying a difference of 290,000 in that 1 year period based on this 7% interest. So if we change the year, 6 years, that's how much we have to pay in 6 years. If we increase the interest rate 10%, it will increase also. If we increase the loan amount, it would reflect that also. Are you guys following so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Good. So by default, it's going to give you the yearly payment. Well, that's if, say for instance, you're doing an exercise or you're doing a question and they give you the information in years. By default, it's going to be in years. So if you want the years now to have a monthly repayment, you're going to need to do some conversion. And we actually have the conversion here, but it should be simple to you guys. The interest rate has to be divided by 12. So say for example, the interest rate is 10%. We have to divide 10% by 12. Why? Anyone?
Because there are 12 months in a year.
Good. So there are 12 months in a year. I remember this interest rate is for the year. It's for the entire year. So we have to divide it by 12 so that we can get how much interest we have to pay on the months individually. So that's going to get us our monthly interest rates. Now, the number of payments is going to be also given in years. So we have to multiply it by 12. So if we get 6 years, we multiply it by 12 so that we can get how many months we need to pay for. So to add that into our function now, is going to be equal PMT the interest rate, which is going to be that 10%. But the next step, anybody want to help me out? What do you think the next step is going to be?
Sir, divided by 12.
Divided by 12. Good, very good. So that's going to be the /12, because you need to divide that interest rate by 12 to get it for the months. Then we put our comma. So this entire part here is now our interest rate. Now the next part is the amount of years. So that's going to be B3. What should I put next?
B3 times 12.
Times 12. Very good. So that's going to be times 12 there. So this entire part here now is my my number of payments. And lastly, we have our loan amount. We don't have to do anything with that because that's going to stay the same no matter what. So now we have our monthly repayment. So every month I have to pay 18. Let me reduce the number. So 200,000. So if I took a $200,000 loan, 10% interest, and I have to pay it back within 4 years, every year I have to pay 63,000 in that 4 years, and every month I have to pay $5,072. And that's basically what. Yes, Monique?
I was just gonna say that's kind of cool.
Yes, it is. I think there are specialized software that these banking organizations would use, but remember, if you're like a small business, you might not want to buy those software. So knowing how Spreadsheet can be used in those situations can be beneficial to you. So if you guys ever take a loan in the future, you could easily use PMT, or even if you know one of your family member has taken a loan, ask them what's the information, and you can show them how you can use Spreadsheet to do the calculations for them. How much they have to repay every month, how much they have to repay every year, and that can be beneficial to both of you. Any questions?
After you writing, what do you type into to get the payment, the yearly payment after writing the loan amount, the interest rate, and the years to pay? What do you type in so you can get the yearly and monthly payment?
Remember, this information the bank is going to give you, so it's based on your personal information. It's not something you type in to get it. Somebody's going to give you the information. So for example, this case here, the bank is going to give us this information here. Okay, Manuel?
Okay, sir.
Any other questions? All right. So that's basically what the PMT is used for. And please remember the conversion. Please remember the difference between the yearly calculation and the monthly calculation. By default, it is going to do, if you just use it normally, it's going to do the yearly calculation. But if you want monthly, you need to convert the values. But it all depends on how they give you the values, because if they give you the value in months, the repayment in months, or the loan interest in months, then obviously you won't need to do any conversion, because that by itself is going to give you the monthly interest, the monthly repayment. So if actually this, we change it to per month, and we say it's a 1% interest a month, and instead of years, this is going to be months. So 36 months. Then ignore this one at the bottom, This one here is going to be our monthly repayments. So notice, this case here, we don't need to do any conversion because all the information is already in the months. So it's like if we're doing maths right now. And PMT works like that. Great. So that's it for PMT. A simple function that is used to calculate the loan amount and interest that you have to pay to whoever you took a loan. So our next function is going to be rank. Let's see. I thought we would have finished off the chapter, but seems we would not get to. Our next function is rank, and we are going to, where are we? Shayan, can you read that for us?
Rank. The syntax is equal to rank, number whose rank you want to find, range of numbers, order of rank. In later versions of Excel, this function has been renamed to rank EQ. This syntax is equal to rank EQ, in brackets, number whose rank you want to find, range of numbers, order of rank, close bracket. This function produces the position of a number or item in a sorted list, so that the first item would have a rank of 1, in brackets, see section 7.5 for more certain data. Note that duplicate numbers are given the same rank.
Good. And, you can continue.
Figure 7.26 illustrates how the final positions are determined in a closely contested sports race with 6 athletes. The range of data from A2 to A7 and B2 to B7 are first sorted out as a group by the finish times in ascending order, so that the person with the fastest time is at the top of the list. The cell range B4 to B7 is named race times. In cells C2 type equal to rank, in brackets B2 race times 1, and press enter. The number 1 in the function indicates that the list is in ascending order, while 0 or omitting a number indicates that it is descending. The rank of the first athlete, Matt, is rank, in brackets B2 raised times 1, and shows the value 1, which is the first of rank 1. Copy the function to the remainder of cells in C3 to C7. Excel adjusts the cell references appropriately. The next rank equal to rank, in brackets B3 raised times 1 equal to 2 for Eli. However, note that Rich equal to rank, in brackets B4 raised times 1 equal to 2, since he has the same finish time as Eli and is therefore also ranked as position 2. Position 3 is skipped because of the tied rank, and so all would be in 4th position.
Good. So let's see. Also rank the position 2. Position 3 is skipped. So the next position is 4th. So some information that we should take away from rank. So ranking is just like imagine a race. When you are running a race and say 8 persons in a race, then that means we have 8 positions, or we have 8 rank. We have rank number 1, 2, 3, all the way to 8, or first place, second place, all the way to 8th place. So that is basically rank. Who is first to who is last. So when 2 numbers are the same, or say somebody tie in a race, if 2 persons tie in a race, do they get the same position? No one knows? No athletic person in the class? No one does PE?
PE is slightly delayed right now.
So if two persons, yes, they do get the same position. If two person ties in a race, they get the same position. They both get first or they both get second because they came in at the same time. They crossed exactly, or something was done at the same time. They're at equal level, so they get the same position. It's the same for your grades. If you and your friend get 80%, or let's use that example. You and your friend get 80%. One of you does get first and second, or do all of you get first?
Sir, all of you get first.
Right. So if 80 is the highest grade and 10 of you get 80, all of you are first. So if the numbers, or if the rank is the same, if the value that you're comparing is the same, then the rank is going to be the same. So for example, in this case here, both Eli and Rich have the same time, so they have the same rank. They have the same rank of 2. But it's important to note that the rank after is going to skip whatever space was taken up. So for example, in this case here, there is no third space because that was covered here basically. Because remember, somebody has to be second, somebody has to be third. So those two space was taken up by these two persons here. But technically they are second. So the next rank is going to be 4 because that's the next available rank. So if 10 persons got 80% and all of them got first and somebody got 75%, what position would they get?
Sir, 11th.
11th. They would get the 11th position because all 10 of those persons took up space 1 to 10, even though all of them are in first. So that's one important thing to remember about rank. Now, the syntax for rank. Let's look at the syntax for rank. The syntax for rank has 3 arguments. The first is the number whose rank you want to find. Basically, what this means is that, for example, in this case here, the finish time is the number that you want to rank. It's basically what do you want to rank. And it's only going to be looking at one value in a row. So for example, over here is going to be the function. This one here is going to have the function. We have the image here. So 1 is going to have the function here. So the first syntax is the number that you want to rank. So in this case here, it is cell B2. That is the number we want to look at. That's the number we want to find out what position it is in. The second part of the syntax is the range of numbers. So we have to compare it now to the group of numbers or to the group of persons that run. So it's like if 10 persons running in a race and Ramona is one of those persons that was running, she is going to be the one that we are looking at. That's the first part of the syntax. And then the second part is the entire 10 persons. We have to compare her now to those 10 persons so that we can know what position she is in. So B2, which is this time that you're seeing here, that is the individual value we're looking at, the individual position, and we are comparing it now to the entire race, to the entire range, to all the persons that would have the similar data. So in this case here, race time is that range. So this is the range here, race time. So B2 is going to be compared to everything inside of this range, and it's going to determine what position you get. Now the last part of the syntax is the rank. How are you going to put the order of the rank? And if we go back to our paragraph, it says here that if you use a 1, it's going to rank in ascending order. That's all it basically is. What order you're going to put them in ascending or descending order. If you put a 0 or you put nothing, it's going to go in descending order. So it all depends on what order you want to put them in, and it would rank them that way. So let's look at an example. Let's have a few names: Cheyenne, James, Shalon, Robert. So they're doing PE, and this one got 70, this one got 40, this one got 30, this one got 60. So you want to rank them now. So we're going to do equal. So we want to rank them based on their grades. So we're going to do equal rank, and remember, rank is no longer used. We have the newer version of rank.eq. So we're going to use that one, rank.eq, open bracket, the number that we want to rank. In this case here, it's going to be D2, which is 70. Are you guys following me so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Alright, so D2 is the value that we want to rank. The next part now is our range, or basically the reference. What are we going to compare it to? So that is going to be our range of the grades. So I highlight my range there, comma, and notice it gave us here, what order do I want it in? Do I want it in ascending order, or do I want it in descending order? So I'm going to put it in ascending order and complete that. So this person got 4th. So now you might be wondering, why does somebody with the highest grade get 4th? Well, it all depends upon the order. So if I put descending order, now we're going to see it correctly. Now we're going to see that she's rightfully the person that got 1st. Now, in this case here, I could bring down autofill the function to get the additional grades, the additional position. But if you notice, we got some error. This person got 1st. And this is important to take note of. I'm not sure if it's going to be covered later on. But when you see this green arrow here, it usually indicates that there is an error with your function or your formula. Something was done wrong with the design. And if you click on this box here, it would try to tell you what is wrong, it would try to help you, or you can ignore it if you know you did it correctly. But in this case, it was wrong. Because if we look at it, we're going to notice the rank shift down. If you notice the rank shift down when we copy it, there's actually a reason behind that, and it has to do with one of our future topics, relative and absolute addressing. I don't want to get into it now, but there's a reason why it changed. So if we don't want to change, I'm going to teach you this later on, so don't worry about it. We would do $signs there and there. So now when I bring this down, I'm going to get the correct grade. I'm going to teach you about all of this later on, don't worry about that. So now we have the correct grade, the correct position, the correct rank. 70 is 1st, 60 is 2nd, 40 is 3rd, and 30 is in 4th position. But the issue we have is that it is not in a order exactly. So this goes back to our last paragraph. It was mentioned somewhere that before you actually use the rank function, you are supposed to sort your data. You're supposed to sort it first. So in this case here, how to sort, you would highlight your data, you would right click on it, and you're going to see a sort option here. So I'm going to go to custom sort, and I think I'm going to cover this later on, so don't worry if you still don't get it. So I'm going to sort the PE column. I'm going to sort it from largest to smallest. Yeah, there's an entire chapter on sorting, so don't worry if you're not following. And I'm going to sort it from largest to smallest. So notice now the rank is in its correct order. So when you're using rank, if you want the rank to be in that logical order, you have to sort the data. That's important to remember. You either sort the data smallest to largest, largest to smallest, whichever one, so that you can get the appropriate rank. Are you guys following?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Alright, now it's time for any questions that you guys have at any one of the functions you didn't understand before we wrap up. We looked at rank, we looked at PMT, we looked at min, we looked at max, we looked at if.
No, sir.
Any comments? Alright. So in review, remember the if function has three arguments. The test, remember that corresponds to criteria, the same questions we're going to ask. Is it less than, more than, greater than, and very nice. And whatever is in the true syntax, whatever is in the true argument is going to be carried out if it is true. Whatever is in the false is going to be carried out if it is false. We looked at max, which gives us the maximum value, min, which gives us the minimum value. Please remember the exact name. It's not maximum, it's not minimum, it's min and max. That's important to remember because some of you might get confused and say minimum and maximum. We looked at PMT, which is used to calculate a person's loan that they have to repay. Remember, by default, it's going to give you the yearly payment. If whoever gave you the values, if they gave you in yearly amount. And we should remember that conversion if we have to convert it to months. More than likely, most time, they're going to give you it in years and you would have to convert it into months. But there's always that rare occasion. And then lastly, we looked at rank. Remember the additional information. If two persons get the same rank, then the next position is going to be whatever two positions those person took up and whatever is after that position. Alright, I think that's it for today. If you guys don't have any questions, we are going to end here for today.
Sir, what's the difference between rank EQ and just normal rank? Why should you use rank EQ and not normal rank?
More than likely, it's because they would have developed a newer version of rank, and that is rank EQ. Let me see if it's gonna work with rank. Yeah, I think it's gonna still work. Yeah, it still works. But what happened is that they would have developed a newer version. Maybe what happened was that this version, it maybe didn't function that well. It wasn't doing some form of calculation correctly, so they had to develop another one so that it could accommodate for maybe those 1 and 2 areas it couldn't do that calculation. But As you see here, both are working.
Okay, sir.
You can just think of it like rank version 2. Alright, if no other questions, we shall end here for today. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, sir.
Yeah,
Bye, sir.
I'm gonna say